Story number 1: Balcony Access. I heard the scraping sound at 2 in the morning, right when I was adjusting the kerning on a logo that was due by 9. Metallic, dragging across concrete. Then my sliding balcony door handle jiggled twice. Sharp little movements, like someone testing it. I looked up from my laptop, staring at the curtain. The fabric hung still. Portland had been unseasonably warm all week, and I'd left my window cracked in the living room. The wind must have knocked something over from the balcony above. Maybe a planter. The building was old enough that things shifted, settled. I told myself that. My hands were shaking when I went back to the logo. I noticed because the trackpad kept jumping. I'd been awake for 20 hours. Insomnia does that. Makes you hear things sharper, see shadows differently. I saved my work and kept going. At 3:30 a shadow moved across my curtain, left to right. Slow, deliberate. Too low to be a branch, and there were no trees close enough to my balcony anyway. I watched it slide across the fabric, a dark shape that paused halfway, then continued until it disappeared past the frame. I sat completely still. My apartment was silent except for the hum of my laptop fan. I tried to rationalize it. A car's headlights from the street below, catching the railing at a weird angle. Except my building faced an alley, and no cars came through at this hour. A bird. Except no bird moved that slowly, that carefully. I turned off my desk lamp, then the overhead light, then the laptop screen. The apartment went dark, and I sat in my chair, watching the curtain. My phone was on the desk next to me, face down. I didn't pick it up. I just watched. The curtain stayed still. The wind had died. I could hear my own breathing, too loud in my ears. My building was quiet at night. Most of the tenants were young professionals, gone by 7 in the morning, back after dark. I liked that, liked the isolation. Now it felt wrong. At 4:07, the door handle turned. Not a jiggle this time, a full, slow turn. I watched the lever move down, hold, then release. The motion was controlled, patient. Someone was testing the lock. I stood up so fast my chair rolled backward and hit the wall. My heart was slamming in my chest. I grabbed the chair, dragged it to the sliding door, and wedged it under the handle the way I'd seen in movies. I didn't know if it would actually work. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped my phone. I texted building security. Someone is trying to get into my apartment from the balcony. 3rd floor, unit 312. Please come now. Then I turned on my phone camera and positioned myself by the front door peephole. I wanted to see the balcony from a different angle. I wanted to see who was out there. Through the peephole, I could see a sliver of my balcony. The railing, the edge of the concrete. Nothing moved, but I heard footsteps, careful, quiet footsteps on concrete. Not above me, on my level. Then a faint grunt, like someone lowering themselves down, and the soft scrape of fabric against the building exterior. I pressed my eye harder against the peephole. My breath fogged the metal. I couldn't see anyone, but I could hear them. They were right there. Security texted back. On my way. 5 minutes. I stayed at the peephole. My legs were cramping. I didn't move. The footsteps had stopped. I couldn't hear anything anymore. Just my own pulse in my ears and the faint hum of the building's ventilation system. When the security guard knocked, I almost screamed. I checked the peephole, saw his uniform, and opened the door. He was older, maybe 60, with a flashlight clipped to his belt. You said someone was on your balcony. They were. I heard them. The door handle turned twice. He looked past me at the sliding door, at the chair wedged under the handle. He didn't say anything about it, just nodded. I'll check the exterior. He left, and I stood in my doorway, watching the hallway. It was empty. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Beige carpet that smelled faintly of cleaning solution. I could hear a television through someone's door. Canned laughter from a late-night show. 20 minutes later, he came back. He had his phone out, showing me a photo. A climbing rope, the kind with a reinforced core, anchored to a balcony railing. Black and frayed at one end. Found this 3 units down. Your neighbor in 306. Tied to his railing, I stared at the photo. 306. Yeah, new tenant. Moved in last month. I knew who he meant. Tall, maybe 40. Always wore a gray hoodie. He nodded at me in the hallway sometimes. Long nods, where his eyes stayed on me even after I looked away. I always walked faster after passing him. What was he doing with a rope? I knocked on his door. He said it's for urban fitness training. Climbs buildings for exercise. I felt cold. At 4 in the morning, the guard shrugged. I told management. They're gonna talk to him. Remove the rope. That's it. Unless you saw him on your balcony, there's not much we can do. He says he wasn't on your side of the building. But the rope. Where's on his balcony? Technically not a violation unless he was trespassing. He left. I closed the door and locked it. Then I checked the balcony door lock. Then I checked the chair wedge. It was still there, jammed under the handle. I sat on my couch and stared at the curtain. The building was silent again. I thought about the shadow moving across the fabric. The door handle turning. The careful footsteps. The grunt of someone lowering themselves. He practiced. That's what kept circling in my head. He practiced reaching my apartment. He knew the route, knew how to move quietly. Knew which balconies connected, which railings were close enough to climb between. And now he knew I was awake. Knew I'd heard him. Knew I'd called security. I didn't move the chair. I sat there as the sky started to lighten outside, gray and hazy with morning fog. My phone was in my hand. My eyes stayed on the balcony door. The chair wedge was the only thing between me and a man who had already figured out how to reach me, who had tested my lock twice, who lived 3 units down and nodded too long in the hallway. I didn't sleep. I just watched the door and waited for the scraping sound to start again. Story number 2, breakdown call. I was sitting in my cubicle when the voicemail notification appeared. 3:40 in the afternoon, the office half empty, because most people left early on Fridays. I almost didn't check it. Unknown number, probably spam. I tapped play and held the phone to my ear. The voice was calm. Mail, I thought, though it had a strange flatness to it, like someone reading from a script. Gray jacket this morning, it said. The one with the zipper pocket. You stopped at Brewhaven on Hillsborough Street. 7:45. Large coffee, black, no sugar. Parking spot 40, 7 in the east garage. I pulled the phone away and stared at it. That was my morning. Exactly my morning. I played it again. The voice continued in that same measured tone. You took the elevator to the 3rd floor. Nodded at the security guard, but didn't say anything. There was a faint static hiss beneath the words, like the call had been made from outside. Wind brushing against the microphone. My first thought was marketing. Some new surveillance advertising thing, tracking my phone's location and making guesses. Except the details were too specific. The gray jacket, the parking spot number. I'd parked in 47 because it was open, not because I always parked there. I set the phone down on my desk and looked around the cubicle farm. 3 other people were visible, all focused on their screens. The overhead lights hummed. Everything looked normal. It had to be a wrong number. Someone with a similar routine, similar schedule. Maybe another insurance adjuster in the building. We all got coffee before work. We all parked in the same garage. I was trying to convince myself when my phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. Calling now, not leaving a message. I watched it ring. 4 buzzes, then it stopped. A few seconds later, the voicemail notification appeared. My hand felt cold when I picked up the phone. I played the new message. Blue shirt. The voice said, khaki pants. There's a coffee stain on your left cuff. Small one. Near the button. You've been clicking your pen for the last 10 minutes. It's annoying the woman 2 cubicles over, but she hasn't said anything. I looked down at my left cuff. The stain was there. Barely visible, brown against light blue. From when I'd bumped my cup during a claims call. I stood up fast enough that my chair rolled backward and hit the cubicle wall. The woman 2 cubicles over glanced up, startled. I didn't know her name. She worked in underwriting, I thought. We'd never spoken. I looked at the windows. We were on the 3rd floor, and the windows faced the street, but the angle was wrong for anyone outside to see into my cubicle. You'd have to be in the building. On this floor, I walked to the aisle and scanned the office. Most of the cubicles were empty. A few people were packing up to leave. No one was watching me. No one looked suspicious. I went back to my desk and forwarded both voicemails to the non-emergency police number I'd saved after my divorce. My ex-wife had shown up at my apartment twice without calling, and her lawyer told me to document everything. I typed a brief message explaining the calls and hit send. Then I grabbed my keys and my jacket from the back of my chair. I wasn't going to sit here and wait to see if there was a 3rd call. The main lobby would be busy, people leaving for the weekend, security at the desk. But I didn't want to walk through the lobby. I didn't want to be visible. The back stairwell exit led directly to the loading dock area, and from there I could cut across to the east garage without going through the main entrance. I walked quickly toward the back of the floor, past the break room and the storage closets. The stairwell door was unmarked except for the small fire exit sign. I'd used it a few times when the elevator was slow. My phone rang. I stopped walking. The sound was loud in the empty hallway. Same unknown number. I should have let it go to voicemail. I should have kept walking. But my hand moved on its own, and I answered. The back exit by the loading dock won't help. The voice was the same. Calm, flat, like we were discussing the weather. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I can see you, the voice said. The call ended. I stood in the hallway, phone still pressed to my ear, and felt my heartbeat in my throat. The stairwell door was 3 feet away. The handle was silver, slightly worn. He knew about the exit. He knew I was going to use it. I turned around and walked back toward the cubicles. Fast, but not running. Running would draw attention, and I didn't know if that was good or bad. The main lobby. People. Security guard at the desk. Cameras. I passed my cubicle without stopping and headed for the elevator. 2 other people were waiting, both from accounting. I stood next to them and tried to look normal. Tried to keep my breathing steady. The elevator took forever. When the doors opened, I stepped inside and pressed the button for the ground floor. The accounting people got off on 2. I rode the rest of the way alone, watching the numbers descend. The lobby was busy. 20 or 30 people moving toward the exits, talking, checking their phones. The security guard was at his desk, signing someone in. I walked over and stood next to the desk until he looked up. Can I help you? I need to report something, I said. My voice sounded strange. Someone's been calling me. They know where I am, what I'm wearing. They knew I was going to use the back exit. He frowned. The back exit? Ah, the stairwell. By the loading dock. As this person in the building? I don't know. Maybe? They called 3 times in the last 20 minutes. He picked up his desk phone and called someone. Building management, I assumed. Then he gestured for me to sit in one of the lobby chairs. Police are on the way. Stay here where I can see you. I sat down. The chair faced the elevators and the main entrance. People kept leaving, walking past me, laughing about weekend plans. Everything was normal for them. I checked my phone. No new calls. No messages. The police arrived 18 minutes later. 2 officers, both younger than me. I showed them the voicemails, explained the timeline. They took notes and asked if I had any idea who might be doing this. Ex-wife, one of them asked. We're divorced, but she wouldn't know about my parking spot. I only started working here 6 months ago. Coworker? Maybe. But the stairwell exit isn't labeled on the outside. You'd have to know the building layout. They went upstairs with building security to check the 3rd floor and the stairwell. I waited in the lobby, watching people come and go. The security guard stayed at his desk, glancing at me every few minutes. The officers came back down 30 minutes later. No one suspicious, one of them said. We checked the stairwell, the loading dock, the parking garage. Security footage shows normal activity. No one loitering or watching the exits. What about the calls? We'll file a report. If it happens again, call 911 immediately. Could be someone messing with you. An ex, a coworker with a grudge. Do you owe anyone money? I shook my head. They left. The security guard offered to walk me to my car, and I accepted. We took the main entrance to the garage. Spot 47 was on the 2nd level, near the stairwell. My car was untouched. No notes, no damage. I sat in the driver's seat and locked the doors before starting the engine. The guard waited until I pulled out, then headed back inside. I drove home on the highway, checking my mirrors every few seconds. No one followed me. No calls came through. But I keep thinking about the stairwell. It's labeled on the fire maps inside the building, the ones mounted in the hallways behind glass. You'd have to work here to see them. Or you'd have to have been inside, studying the layout planning. The police think it's a prank. My ex-wife, a coworker. But I never told anyone about Spot 47. It's not assigned. It's just where I happened to park this morning. And the back exit. The loading dock. How did he know I'd choose that door? Story number 3, Trailhead Shuttle. I finished my loop trail around 4:30, just as the light started to go flat and gray. The White Mountains in late October don't give you much time after the sun drops behind the ridgeline. I'd done the hike before, 6 miles, nothing technical, but my legs felt it anyway. Good tired. The kind that makes you feel like you actually did something with your Saturday. The parking lot was almost empty when I got back. Just my Subaru and a dark blue sedan near the Trailhead sign. I'd seen it when I started out that morning. Someone else doing a long day hike, I figured. I popped my trunk and started unlacing my boots, balancing on one foot against the bumper. The sedan's engine turned over. I glanced up out of habit, saw a middle-aged guy in a fleece jacket back out and pull away. He didn't look at me. Within 30 seconds, his taillights disappeared around the bend in the access road. That's when I realized how quiet it was. No wind, no birds. Just that particular silence you get in the mountains when the day is finishing. I was pulling off my second boot when I heard tires on gravel behind me. A white van rolled into the lot, unmarked, a little beat up around the wheel wells. It pulled up close, maybe 15 feet away, and the driver's window came down. Hey there. The guy leaning out was maybe 40, 45, with a trimmed beard and a green vest over a long-sleeved shirt. The vest had a patch on it. Some kind of official-looking emblem I couldn't quite read in the dimming light. You finishing up? Yeah, just got back. Heading into town. He held up a laminated badge clipped to his vest pocket. We've got shuttles running now through the off-season. Trailhead to North Conway. Free service. I hesitated, my boots still in my hand. I didn't know they started doing that. New this year. Budget came through in September. He smiled, easy and professional. Trying to encourage people to carpool, reduce the parking congestion on weekends. You're the last one out, so I'm headed back anyway. It made sense. I'd read something about the Park Service expanding accessibility programs, and my feet hurt. The idea of not driving 40 minutes on mountain roads in the dark had appeal. Sure, I said. That'd be great, actually. Just toss your pack in the back. Doors open. I grabbed my backpack and daypack, locked my car, and walked around to the van's sliding door. It opened smoothly. The interior was empty, except for 2 rows of seats, and some cargo straps hanging loose against the walls. No Park Service logos. No signage at all. I climbed in and pulled the door shut. The smell hit me immediately. Diesel, strong and stale, mixed with something else. Chemical, sweet. Like industrial cleaner or solvent left sitting in a closed space. Sorry about the smell, he said, glancing at me in the rearview mirror. Transmission fluid leak. Getting it looked at Monday. No problem. I buckled my seatbelt and tried breathing through my mouth. He pulled out of the lot and turned onto the access road, heading downhill toward the highway. The van's engine was loud, a grinding rattle that made conversation difficult. I looked around for anything official, a radio, a clipboard, a Park Service decal. Nothing. Do a lot of hiking up here? He asked, raising his voice over the engine. Few times a year. I'm up in Burlington, so it's not too far. By yourself? Usually, yeah, that's brave. Lots of people won't go solo, especially this late in the season. He adjusted the mirror slightly, and I saw his eyes flick toward me. Anybody know you were out here today? The question landed wrong. Too specific, too interested. My boyfriend, I lied. He's expecting me back by 7. Good, good. Smart to let someone know. He nodded, hands loose on the wheel. What do you do for work? Environmental science. Soil testing, mostly. So you know the trails pretty well. Probably got a good sense of direction. I guess. He went quiet after that. I watched the road. We should have hit the junction with Route 16 by now, the main road into North Conway. Instead, we were still wending through narrow forest roads, heading deeper into the valley. The trees pressed close on both sides, and the sky above was nearly dark. Is this the usual route? I asked. Shortcut. Saves about 10 minutes. I pulled out my phone. No signal, 1 bar, then nothing. We were in the valley bottom now, mountains on all sides. I tried to remember the name of this road, whether it even connected to anything. But I'd never come this way before. Should hit the highway pretty soon, he said. I didn't answer. My heart was beating faster. That animal awareness kicking in, the one that bypasses rational thought. Something was wrong. The smell, the lack of markings, the questions. The van slowed slightly, and I heard a mechanical click from the door beside me. Soft, but definite. I reached for the handle and pulled. It didn't move. I pulled again, harder, locked. Child locks, he said, almost apologetic. State requirement for passenger vehicles. Let me out. We're almost there. Let me out now. His eyes met mine in the mirror, and his expression didn't change. Patient, like he'd had this conversation before. I yanked the handle again, throwing my weight against the door. Nothing. The van sped up slightly, the engine grinding louder. My phone was useless. No signal. No GPS. I thought about breaking the window. But with what? My water bottle. My trekking poles were in my car. Think. "I'm gonna be sick," I said. "You're fine." "No, I'm serious. I'm going to throw up." I leaned forward, making retching sounds, gagging. "Pull over. Pull over now." "We're 5 minutes out. I can't wait. I'm going to vomit all over your van." I gagged again, louder, more convincing. "Please." He swore under his breath and slowed down. Ahead, I saw a stop sign where our road intersected another. Beyond it, lights, a building, gas station maybe. The van rolled to a stop. I lunged for the door handle and yanked it over and over, slamming my shoulder against the door. The lock mechanism rattled. I pulled again, frantic, and something gave. The handle clicked, and the door slid open 6 inches. I shoved it the rest of the way and fell out onto the pavement, my backpack tangling around my arms. I heard him yell something, but I was already running toward the lights, my legs shaky and uncoordinated. The gas station was small, just 2 pumps and a convenience store. I hit the door hard and stumbled inside. A kid behind the counter, maybe 19, looked up from his phone. "Lock the door," I said. "Lock it now." He stared at me. "There's a van outside. White van. Lock the door and call the police." He moved then, reaching under the counter for a phone. I turned and saw the van idling at the stop sign, headlights pointed toward the station. 30 seconds passed, maybe 40. Then it turned and drove away, slow and unhurried. The kid was talking to someone on the phone, giving the address. I went to the bathroom and locked myself inside, sitting on the floor with my back against the door until I heard sirens. The police came. I told them everything. They wrote it down. The attendant stood in the doorway while I talked. When I finished, he looked at the officer and said, "3 other women called about the same thing. Last month. White van, guy in a park service vest, picking people up at trailheads around dusk." "Did you find him?" I asked. The officer shook his head. "We've been looking. No vehicle matching that description registered in the area. No reports of anyone impersonating park service. But 4 women." "I know," he said. "We're looking." They drove me back to my car. I sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes before I felt steady enough to drive home. The whole way, I kept checking my mirror.